Dear students, today we will discuss the important topic in physics that is called projectile motion. We know that we have studied many types of motion. One-dimensional motion, that means motion in a straight line. Suppose a bus is moving on a road, that is the motion in a straight line. And one more motion, that is we have to discuss the two-dimensional motion also. That means two-dimensional motion means that means its x and y coordinate goes on changing. Here the projectile motion, it is a two-dimensional motion. When what is first of all we should define what is projectile and what is projectile motion. How can we define a projectile? Suppose if a body is thrown up above the surface of the earth and thrown up vertically means at an angle 90 degree, it will retrace its path. That means it will come back to its original position. If a body is thrown above the surface of the earth at an angle other than the 90 degree, it will follow path just like this. The path followed by the body is called a trajectory, and the particle which is thrown above the surface of the earth, that is called a projectile, and the motion of that particle is called projectile motion. Before discussing the projectile, we should discuss some important terms which are related with the projectile motion. Suppose if a body is thrown up above the surface of the earth, it is thrown at some velocity. Above the surface of it is thrown at some velocity. Suppose you use the velocity of the body. We have to resolve this velocity into rectangular component. One is the horizontal component of the velocity and other is the vertical component of the velocity. Suppose this angle is theta. See, the body is making angle theta with the horizontal component. That means it is horizontal component becomes u cos theta, which you already know. It is vertical component is u sin theta. When a body is thrown up, that means it is velocity gets resolved into rectangular components u cos theta, that is horizontal component which is acting on the body horizontally throughout the course of motion, and vertical component means the u sin, that is u sin theta, which is acting upwards of the body here, and it goes on decreasing. Why it is goes on decreasing? Because it is acted by the force of gravity. At this point, its velocity becomes zero. Which velocity? That is the vertical component of the velocity becomes not velocity. Vertical component of the velocity becomes zero, and it again starts falling from here, and touches the ground at point. Suppose this is point A and touches the point B. This is that means body has traveled from point A through this path to point B. This path is called a trajectory, and the time taken by body from point A to reach the point B, it's called the total time. That's called the total time. That is T of flight. The time taken by body from point A to point C, see the point where it is the vertical component of the velocity becomes zero, is called the time of ascent. TA, time of ascent. From point C to point B, where it touches the ground, is called time of descent. TI, time of descent. These are some terms which we have to remember. Descent. We have to calculate these also. What is the time, total time taken by flight? ये किसके बराबर है? Time of ascent किसके बराबर है? Time of descent किसके बराबर है? And the maximum height obtained by a body where it is vertical component of the velocity becomes zero. It is called maximum height. Max. That means maximum height. It is the maximum height. If you define the maximum height, it is the height of the projectile from the surface of the earth where it is vertical component of the velocity becomes zero. It is usually represented as max. Max means it's the maximum height. The distance traveled, the horizontal distance traveled by a body from point A to point B, where A is the point where body starts to fly in the air, and B is the point where it touches the ground back. This is called a range. R-A-N-G, range. It is usually divided by R. We have to make the calculation. This is very important question. First, from this class, we will try to find out the time of flight. How can we calculate the time of flight of a projectile? Have you got it? Let's try to find it. Before calculating the time of flight, that means total time taken by a projectile to reach from point A to point B. How can we calculate it? This time of flight, we are given certain things. One is we are given initial velocity, I and I, initial velocity u, but we have resolved it in rectangle components. We know that it is horizontal component is u cos theta, and it is vertical component is u sin theta, and angle this projectile makes with the horizontal component, that is theta. We are given here theta angle. The angle is also given, that is called a theta. That means we are given u cos theta, that is horizontal component, u sin theta, that is vertical component. But you have to remember only one thing, is the vertical component goes on changing. The vertical component of the velocity goes on changing. It is acted by the force of gravity towards it. But the horizontal component remains constant during the course of motion. Please remember this. U cos theta does not change during the course of motion because it is not acted by any force of gravity. Only the vertical component, the velocity which pushes the body in the upward direction, it is acted by force of gravity. That force, because force of gravity हर किस चीज को फोर्स ऑफ ग्रेविटी अपनी तरफ ले रहा है, that is affected by u sin, that means u sin theta is affected. That means it goes, it goes on changing. At point C it goes, and it is maximum value is 0. Sorry, its value is 0. At C its value is 0, and then it goes again to point B. But when we calculate this time taken by a projectile, we have to take only the vertical components of the motion into consideration, because यहाँ से हमें शुरू करना ये ऊपर और फिर नीचे आना है. We have to take into consideration of the vertical components of the motion. How can we calculate this time of flight? We have to take the equation of motion. We know the equation of motion. We know also this S is equal to ut plus 1/2 of at square. ये एक equation of motion है. Here S is the distance, vertical. I am taking up the vertical component of the, because time of flight is determined by vertical component. यहाँ से शुरू उसने किया, यहाँ से खत्म हो गया. S means good distance covered in the vertical direction. Body was initially at point A on the ground, and it again reaches at the point B on the ground. That means the distance covered by a body in the vertical component is 0. S is equal to 0 then. But what is the u? U is the vertical component of the velocity. Vertical component of velocity u sin theta. T is the time taken from point A to B. It is the total time taken by it. Small t is equal to capital T is the total time taken. Total time taken. Here A is the acceleration due to gravity. Here value of A is equal to here minus g, because it is against the gravity. When body is moving up, force of gravity is pulling it down. Here A is equal to minus g, and T is again capital T. When we substitute in this equation, we can get S is equal to 0. U means u sin theta. T, small t means capital T, plus 1/2 of A means minus g, T square. When we substitute it, we can get 1/2 gt square. 1/2 gt square is equal to u sin theta. T and T cancel. Ultimately, we get total time u sin theta, twice u sin theta, divided by g. This is the total time taken by a projectile from point A to point B. This is very important. This can be frequent. There are some other terms which are time of ascent, time of descent, and this we have to find out this. And this the maximum height. How can we calculate the maximum height? How can we find out the range? We can do in the next classes. I will make a quick revision. This is the we are discussing here the projectile motion. Here it is a two-dimensional motion. X and Y coordinates goes on changing continuously. When a body is thrown up above the surface of at an angle other than 90 degrees, it is called the body is called a projectile, and the motion of the body is called a projectile motion. We know that when a body is thrown at some velocity, initial velocity, we are resolving the velocity into rectangular components. Horizontal component is u cos theta, and vertical component is u sin theta. Horizontal component remains the constant throughout the course of motion, because it is not acted upon by force of gravity. Only the vertical component of the velocity, which acted upon by force of gravity, goes on changing, and when the body reaches at point C, the vertical component of the velocity becomes 0. The horizontal component of velocity remains the same, and it again reaches to point B. Today's topic is how can we find out the total time taken by projectile to reach from point A to point B. We can take the equation of motion in a vertical form. Why in the vertical form? Because this is the time taken from point A to point B. When in vertical motion, the s is equal to 0, because in vertical motion the body was lying on the ground at point A, and end of when and end of the time it again reached at the point B. That means it is again lying in the same position. That means s is equal to 0 in the vertical portion. U means we have to taken the vertical component of the velocity into consideration. U means u sine theta. U sine theta is the vertical component of the velocity. T is the total time taken by body from point A to point B. T is equal to capital T, and here A is equal to minus g, because it is the acceleration due to gravity. When we substitute here in this equation, s becomes 0, u becomes u sine theta, t becomes capital T, 1 by 2 minus g t square. When we substitute, ultimately we get the total time taken by the flight, and total time taken by the projectile is equal to u sine theta divided by g. अगर आपको सिंपल वे में याद रखना है, it is twice the vertical component of the velocity divided by acceleration due to gravity. ज्यादा याद रखें, अगर मैं हिंट में दूंगा, total time taken by a body to reach from point A to point B is the twice the vertical component of the velocity divided by g, acceleration. Thank you very much. In the next classes we will discuss time of ascent, time of descent, and how can we calculate the range and the maximum height obtained by a projectile. This is an important question and is frequently asked in the examination. Thank you very much.